And we are live for another edition of Book and a Beverage. We're here with Christopher Navo. And before I forget, please like and subscribe. Woohoo! I remember.
All right. We need theme music or something, man. We need a walk up into this as opposed to just like starting. That way, maybe somebody will be here by the time we actually get to start talking.
We got five people.
Like 0 to 5. All right.
So, Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Mike. Thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you. And Ro as well. I think this is the first time you and I think, have chatted.
Yeah, I don't get out much. No.
I chat a bit with Mike on the Discord channels, but yeah, that's...
See, Mike keeps trying to tell people and convince them that he's some hermit that lives under a rock and doesn't get into like social media and all that stuff, but he's still out there in Discord doing all that. And I'm the one who I opened up Discord and I was like, what the hell am I looking at? So yeah,
it can get overwhelming because there's so many channels, and it's you want to participate in discussion and all that, but at the same time, it's like, what channel do I start with? Kind of thing.
Right? Yeah, it's just this sea of text, and it's kind of like,
not to mention,
I would comment on something that was like 2 years old or something. I wouldn't even know.
Yep. You'll like read a book, especially if there's was at one point like a buddy read, and you read a book, and it's like, oh, cool, now I can participate in this discussion that started like 3 years ago.
Right. Yeah. Hey, I just watched Game of Thrones.
Yeah. I know, right?
So, Christopher, I have questions for you.
Do it.
The book that you are writing, do you have a title for it yet?
Hey, before you get to that, let's explain to people that Christopher is not published yet, and he's writing a book, right? Let's provide some context for your question.
Everybody knows Chris.
No, yeah, that is correct. And I am on my second draft. The title is still kind of a work in progress, but I will definitely let you know as soon as I have that title. I don't have it finalized yet.
Okay. So what's it about?
I'm playing a little bit with I have essentially a 5-book series planned. I do have plot lines for each and every one. Only book 4 is actually the one I'm going to have probably the most difficult with because of the events that tie into from the end of 3 to 5. So I'm going for a pretty standard, more of a grimdark fantasy. I do want to play a little bit with high fantasy elements. There are 4 other races besides humans, and they're not elves or dwarves. But I'm trying something new with some different types of races. I definitely have influences from mythology, world mythology. So I'm playing a little bit with that. And it's essentially it's kind of the series. I can't give you like a blurb or anything like that, but I can say it's basically around people that are around the actual chosen ones. So it's there might be a couple POVs based on somebody who is a chosen one, but I want to play around with the ramifications of the people around these chosen ones. Kind of consider, I like to consider it like, think of Superman and Spider-Man, Superman fighting General Zod, and Spider-Man fighting Dr. Octopus, and all the destruction that's happening around them, and what's happening with those people. Are they getting out of these like falling buildings and all that? So it's where the center focus is on the ramifications of what these chosen ones do to try to save their world, and how it affects them, maybe even on a negative level. And I want to play a lot with themes of loss and those ramifications of being around those type of people.
So, I mean, are you looking at it then from the sidekick POV, like
Sort of, yes.
Yeah. Robin, I guess.
Yeah, I'm gonna have multiple POVs, and like I said, I think a couple of them might follow the actual one or two of the chosen ones, but it's going to be mostly around the sidekick characters, if you want to call them that.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting way to do it, because I mean, it's one of the things. Even writing these things, you kind of look at your secondary characters, and you're like, well, what are they off? You know, they're following this dude around and doing, you know, whatever, but what are they doing on their off time? You know.
And yeah, and at what cost is kind of the thing.
Sitting around a bar talking about that asshole they have to follow around all the time.
Exactly. Yep.
So, and Chris, how many words is your book?
Well, the first draft turned out like 360,000, I want to say, and yeah, it's definitely in need of an edit.
There's no point. You said maybe I've got enough.
Well, there's a couple times where I'm letting the characters write. You know, I have the plan. I have the plan for all 5 books. I have plot points that I want hit in each, in each section for each character. I am playing with, I think, 5 primary POVs in the first book anyway. And so it just, sometimes they stay on plot, sometimes they kind of do their own thing, and I'm like, well, let's see how this plays out kind of thing. So I'm kind of like a hybrid of that plotzer and all that. So I have an outline. If they can make it to the plot points that I want, then I'll let it go and see how it gets there. But yeah, definitely I'm in due for some, major edits, of course. I don't want it to be that chonker of a book. I mean, I think that is currently what Brandon Sanderson's size. So
yeah, that's pretty big.
Yeah. So especially for a first book. And I thought I was going to start off with a novella or something, but I decided to just go big.
So 5 POV, 5 like primary character POVs.
Yes. Yep.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And that's another thing I'm definitely, I think I'm going to struggle with the most is, do I like place them all out separately? Do I have like a chapter for one POV? So like by chapter 6, am I going back to POV 1? So I think there are times where I do have consecutive chapters, and there's many times where those POVs are in the same scene together. Mm-hmm. So I'll have like maybe like a split chapter where you're following one point of view and you go into the other one, like maybe the second half of the chapter. So there are times where many of the scenes, there's at least 2 or 3 even sometimes together. So it's a little easier to definitely keep track then. But in the beginning, yeah, they're all 5 separate plot lines.
And this, boys and girls, is why writing on a computer is dangerous. Because if you had to load every piece of paper into an old-fashioned typewriter, you would stop way before 370,000 words.
Absolutely.
You'd have a stack next to you. This is ridiculous.
And yeah, and I am from an age when I first started writing, I was using a typewriter.
No kidding.
I had an electric typewriter. It was like I think it was like a gift I got from somebody, and I was a teenager, an older teenager, and it was like the best gift ever was this electronic typewriter. Now I had a computer too, but it was a little, it was definitely more of a business use for the computer than anything.
Yeah.
So Chris, I have a question for you. Did you by any chance see our interview when we talked to CM Kaplan?
Yes, I did catch that. Yeah.
So did you see his process, how he wrote 170,000 words and then he edited out 130,000 of them and took those 40,000 and then wrote another 110,000 and then I'm not wishing this upon you, but have you considered that?
Yes, that is definitely something I'm looking into for the second draft. And I think there's going to be parts where I can easily do something along those lines. I need to reach out to him on a little more specifics on that because I want to
Your
know.
other option, of course, is to put aside the idea of a 5-book series and think about an 8-book series.
Or 10.
And take those words and just make them into 2 separate books.
Absolutely. I think I think Brian Lee Durfee, he initially wanted his 5 Warrior Angels to be 5 books, and they ended up being 3 books. And if you've seen those are like huge, like they're chunkers. But he said he was able to get all the information he wanted in them. But if it goes any direction, it's going to go into more volumes of books for sure.
If it makes you feel better, I was going to write a 4-book series, and now I finished my 4th out of 7. So,
Yeah, and I see you're able to handle that series just really well. I think you have just like the perfect like stopping point. If I could get those books that length, I'd be thrilled. But I think they will be a little heftier of a book.
Well, I tell people that 400 words, if it's more than that, I have to think seriously about if I want to read it or not, and I will not go past 500.
Yeah.
So
there's many people like that, and that's what my worry is. I don't really want to hit that 500-page threshold myself. I do want to try to keep it under. So I have toyed with the idea of possible splitting the book, but then I'm gonna have to make sure that where I split it, there's like a good resolution to that first book, especially.
Yeah, I think that's always the trick with series is trying to make each book a satisfying enough story, but having enough hanging out there to bring a person back into book 2 and 3, and etc.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank God for MacGuffins. So you also have a YouTube channel, right?
Correct. Yep.
How'd you get into that?
I think a lot of that had to do with, again, for when we came on board, like the class of 2023, as many of us call ourselves during that year. I think we were like the first like COVID year of booktubers and post-COVID booktubers. And I think it was from catching a lot of booktube during COVID. I mean, I know from my standpoint, I went from working in an office to working from home during COVID. So suddenly I'm able to like do things such as listen to audio or have videos playing in the background, some noise. So I think that's when I first caught BookTube, and I'm like, wow, this is a thing. I think Mike from Mike's Book Reviews and Patrick Leo were my first booktubers I subbed to, and I think from there I was like, wow, this is like an actual thing. They're talking about books that interest me and things I like, and it just kind of grew from there. I had a good portion of these books already prior to starting the channel. And I thought, this is a good idea. Let me talk about the books I'm reading, on the side, especially if they are in the sci-fi and fantasy genres. So it just kind of like clicked, and I decided to start the channel last year. I wish I had more time to put into the channel. I don't get to put out a lot of videos, but I'm happy with the way the channel has grown. I mean, there's been a big support for me, and that's been just best thing is the community.
Sorry about that. But you're up to well over 1,000 subs now, right?
Yeah, I think I hit 1,000 like maybe a couple weeks ago. I did a live stream discussion of One Piece, and I guess that's a big attention grabber.
I'm seeing that now, yeah.
So and it's funny because a majority of my content really doesn't really cover like the catch me algorithm friendly topics. So but I wanted to get more into the manga. I've seen people like Philip Chase. I'm like, okay, if somebody close to my age is enjoying, manga, and I wanted to see what the hype was for manga and see if it really kind of clicked with me. And I've been reading Vinland Saga, which is a very Norse inspired story, and it's actually really good and really compelling. And they do a really good job with expressing emotion in those panels. So I kind of clicked with me. And then of course you hear about One Piece even if you've never like seen or done anything. So I thought, oh, I'm going to give this Netflix TV show a try, and then it kind of took off from there. But
let's ask Mikey. Feel like the old cereal commercial. See if Mikey likes it. Have you watched One Piece, Mike?
I have.
Oh my God, really? I honestly was not expecting that answer.
I kind of shocked myself because I have never liked comic books. I don't like animated shows. No, it has to be like real people. And like you hear about One Piece, and I'm like, I'm not going to read that. My two brothers tell me, no, this is a graphic novel. It's not a comic book. I'm like, it's an expensive comic book. Shut up.
It's an investment, that's for sure.
Well, there's like my son was saying there's like 1,000 episodes of it or something. It's yeah. So what do you think of the live action?
I really liked it. I kept meaning to jump onto one of your shows because I saw you did those, Chris, and I just never did. And I was like, okay. But I did actually like the live action, and I will actually watch the next season because it was kind of silly, but in an entertaining way. So I liked it.
Yeah, and the difference I think is why I think I enjoyed it so much is because this is one of the few times I did not read a book, which or any kind of source material prior to watching a TV show. Usually when I get into a TV show that's based on something that you can find in a book, I usually go for the book first, and then watch like a TV adaptation. Case in point, Wheel of Time. So I think that made me enjoy this a lot more, and it was really interesting to get people's like takes on certain things that played out in that show that either never even take place in the book or didn't get like maybe the attention it deserved on the show. And we were able to like I was on there with Laura from Fantasy Awash, and we were able to actually pinpoint times where we felt like the show was the weakest, and we find out that from the manga readers we found out that those scenes were like drastically cut, and you could tell those moments in the show even without reading the source material, and I thought that was always kind of interesting.
My son showed me a thing where the guy who wrote that book, if you pull up like the list of the 10 authors with the largest bank accounts, right? Obviously, like Rowling is 1 or 2 on that or something. The dude makes the top 10 for that. He's been writing those books for like 20 something years or something incredible like that. So he's done all right.
Yeah. I think it's really cool that there are people that have their whole life connected to that material. They probably started when they were like kids, and they're reading it now, probably in their 30s now, or something like that. Probably a little older. I think it is older material, but you know what I'm saying. It's like people might have started that when they were in their teens, and now they're still in their 30s and reading that. I think that's.
What are they going to do when the guy finishes?
What's that?
What are those people going to do when this guy when he writes the end on it and it's done?
Yeah,
we're going to put him on watch. We're going to have to look out for him.
Start over from the beginning, Ro.
Yeah. No.
I mean, how much would you have forgotten if it took you 30 years for the whole series to come?
Dude, I've only watched like the first 5 episodes. I've forgotten half of it.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if and not to mention like improvement of writing and improvement of, being able to tell a story. I mean, I think, I look at some of my older writings and I'm like, oof, I cringe, what I wrote in some of those earlier drafts of books that, are never going to see the light of day, thankfully. So I think I wonder if, if that comes across the pages where you read some of those earlier chapters in his manga, and then it grows on you. There's a maturity level that grows on you eventually too.
So in your channel, I mean, you do a lot of book reviews, yeah?
I generally I don't do dedicated videos on book reviews, but they are in my say my weekly updates or my monthly wrap-ups, whatever I'm doing. But I don't do a lot of dedicated review videos. I know that a lot of people in the book community actually like watching them, but I've seen that they perform bad. And for me, who can't get a video out frequently as much as I'd like to, I don't want to put a lot of time into maybe one video kind of thing.
Okay. I was just going to ask, when you do that, though, when you're reading those books, do you find yourself now reading more indie, or are you still pretty much reading the mainstream kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I keep it 50-50. I think it was kind of my personal channel goal to cover a lot of indie. I think it was, I just want to be that another voice channel to promote indie. I want people to break that stigma of indie books automatically, poorly edited or not structured well or something like that, because there's a lot of great story out there in indie, and I kept it 50-50. There's a lot of popular books I haven't read yet, though. I'm just third book in Malazan by Stephen Erickson. That's really popular. Pierce Brown's Red Rising series, I'm book 4 with that. So yeah, there's a lot of popular fiction I haven't read yet either that I want to. So it's just a matter of splitting it, making sure, especially when I get when an author sends an arc, I want to be able to, I'll say I won't get to it for a couple months probably, but I do plan to read it, of course.
What's your favorite in the historical fiction realm? For
historical fiction, probably the Warlord Chronicles by Bernard Cornwell was one of my personal favorites. I also liked Stephen Pressfield's Gates of Fire. Now I've read that long time ago. That series was, or that book anyway, was one of my personal favorites. That's when I was actually in school for studying ancient history and archaeology and all that. So that was always just an interest of me. I do like but I do like a lot of the more medieval stuff. I do like the Tudor dynasty books. So I want to start. What's her name? Mantell. She wrote Wolf Hall. So that's kind of on my short list coming up here too. But I do a lot of classical and ancient historical fiction. So Robert Harris is another one of my favorites, the Cicero trilogy. And I'm not even a big Cicero fan, but that trilogy was a good series.
I don't know that I've ever heard the sentence "a big Cicero fan" before. Something new.
I think it was just when it was in my time and when I was studying, and I was just I'm so over Cicero.
What's the Warlord series? What period is that? Because I'm familiar with Cornwell.
The King Author.
Oh, okay, so it's going way back.
Yeah, so it is a little bit, do you call it historical fiction? I mean, but it's still kind of, I think it still kind of falls under that. It is, real life England and all that. So.
So, I'm Ed McMahon. I'm Ed McMahon. You're Johnny Carson.
Oh man, have at it.
So, I'm assuming Nicholas is here. Hey, Nicholas. So what is your favorite Grimdark series that you've completed?
I've completed?
Yeah.
I would say probably Glenn Cook's Black Company. I read those. I read those when I was younger, because it is an older series. A lot of modern grimdark writers credit Glenn Cook as an inspiration for their work, and I can see why. It was like my first experience into something that was a little more like less good versus evil and less black and white, and it was like, wow, these characters are really like you feel like you know them a little bit more than like maybe a all golden boy or or an all right out villain kind of thing. And I like that. I like how you can follow. It was like the first time I remember following somebody with real like flaws, making bad decisions, and I appreciate that. And so I was able to appreciate a little more grimdark fantasy from that. Of course, Joe Abercrombie in the First Law. I'm planning to read the standalones this year at some point. I think Glenn Cook definitely spurred that into me, and I have a little bit of. I like to think I have a little bit of Glenn Cook influence in the work I'm writing.
Cool. I'm not going to comment on First Law because I'll just go on a rant.
Right. Go ahead. I haven't seen it.
No, I want to know. Now I want to know.
Looking for a plot. If there is a plot anywhere, that would be wonderful. If Glauca and Logan ever met each other in the 1,000 pages that were written, that these are the two main POVs and they never even meet each other. They just wander around and then, well, that's the end of the book. Oh my God. Oh God.
I'll give you that one. I was a little disappointed with the last book, Last Argument of Kings. I thought the ending was, I guess it's just one of those books you just really invested in the character. And that's what I liked about Joe Abercrombie is his character work. Definitely missing a plot, I would say. It is a lot of much ado about nothing, but I still enjoyed the read for the characters, which is kind of a weakness for me. I like books about character, but yeah, I agree. It needs sometimes a book needs a plot, or most of the times a book needs a point.
How do you really feel like?
Yeah, I'm like 10% of the people who, when I read, I don't read for character. I read for plot. I read for world building. I'm the one that if I'm reading your book, I'll be like, wait, that's a logical inconsistency. You're dead to me now. I'm better now. I used to be really bad before I start writing. Now I'm a little more forgiving of authors now that I've done it.
Freaking hope so.
Now, people think just because we write fantasy that we can just make up our own rules, and yeah, in a sense we can, but we have to just make sure we follow through with our rules.
Well, yeah, there it is. That's the beauty of writing fantasies. You can just make it all up.
Yeah,
right. But
you have to stay consistent with your own rules. Then
correct. Yeah. Nothing's wrong as long as it's consistent.
And I'll say I tried listening to Malzahn, and I realized I just did not have the mental bandwidth between day job and writing and marketing books and having to talk to Ro, which is a chore. Let me tell you. Oh wait, that's not supposed to say that out loud.
That's quite all right. I've been called worse by better people.
Malzahn is an investment.
Yeah.
I've been reading book 3, Memories of Ice, for probably 2 months. Now, granted, I'm reading other stuff too. It's not my single only read. I'm reading other stuff too, but it's an investment. And when you're juggling multiple stuff in your life, it's tough to do. But and especially, and I think book 1 and 2 are actually only like setup books to, or 2 central groups. And I think it is like finally, like I feel like I'm at, chapter 1 with Memories of Ice, book 3.
Oof. I'm gonna have to write that down and just not go anywhere near that book, because I think if it's a book without a story or a plot, it's like I don't care how good the characters are.
Oh no, Abercrombie, that's what drives me nuts, because I love Glauca. I mean, and I love Logan Nine Fingers. Fantastic characters, but there's just no plot. and it ends, and you're like, what was the point of telling me this?
Why is there why?
What are you reading about? Are you just like a fly on the wall watching them go about their lives?
Like I said, the two main characters, they never meet, never once. At least in the first two books. I didn't read the third one because I'm like, no, I can't. I just can't anymore. It's just, like a day in the life. One's a torturer and one's an outlaw with an outlaw band, and they go do their things, and then the story ends, and you're like, why?
And yet, all of you people have read this thing. So, what is the author of this doing correct to get so many people to read what sounds like awful?
I think if you ask a lot of fantasy writers what some of their favorite characters are, they will most likely have somebody, maybe not Mike, but somebody will have a character, I think, from the First Law trilogy.
Yeah.
From the what?
As some of their most favorite fantasy sci-fi characters of all time, and I think Glokta would be one of them, and maybe Logan Nine Fingers might be another one for some, but for the most part, I think Glokta is on a lot of people's lists, and he's on mine. I think Joe did a really good job writing this character almost right on page one, and you're like, what is about this character? And I mean, not to go into too many spoilers, but he's like, doing bad things, and you're like laughing because the scene is like almost written in a like dark humor kind of comical way, and especially if you do audio, Stephen Pacey does an amazing job on the audio with First Law, and I'm like laughing at these like kind of really dark scenes, and it's just because it's dark, Glokta's inner thoughts, and they're just hilarious. And he's got a little bit of a lisp because he doesn't have a lot of teeth, and it's just funny.
It's inappropriately funny.
Yeah.
Like I said, I love the characters, but there is not a plot to be found anywhere. Oh. Well, I will never read the third book, so I will never know.
I'm gonna try a couple of his standalones this year, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, you have to give me the short version one day because you're not selling. I mean, the part about the character sounds interesting, but not enough to make me want to pick up any of this.
Yeah,
I don't read enough. So.
It could be a tough sell, and if I say it's good for character-focused readers, but like Mike says, and I'll admit it, is that the plot is very thin, if that.
Well, then I have bad eyes because I say there's non-existent. It doesn't exist. But then I did not read the third book, so maybe it ties together at some point. But
yeah.
So how is all this reading of stuff and doing your channel, Chris? How is that influencing your writing? I mean, it seems like if you're up to 370,000 words or whatever, that this Navarro is having a really negative impact on you. Maybe you should seek help. I don't know.
Maybe I am one of those people that have too many ideas going on in one volume.
I suggest a notebook next to your desk, a little mantra that says, "I don't need to do them all at once."
Yeah. I'm pretty proud of myself, despite how long it is, that I've been kind of consistent on where I am going with like plot. I think the thing I struggle with the most was some of the main themes that I want to have featured in the books, and I talk about this on a couple of times, but there's actually a point where I accidentally just started writing from another person's point of view that isn't supposed to be a main character. It's a husband and wife team, and I initially made the husband the point of view, and then I just accidentally found that the wife had actually the more compelling storyline. She was matching more of the theme that I wanted for this first book, and it just kind of like shifted So now when I do this rewrite, I'm going to have to write all those scenes where most of them are where they are together. So it's just a matter of getting in her head space rather than his. So it's interesting, and I think I from my reading experience, doing more reading, of course, you're just improving things that you're like, okay, I'm finding I mirror this author in this approach, and I'm not sure if I want to do that or not. So it's kind of like making mental notes to myself. Let's not do this. Let's actually have a plot line if I'm reading something.
Thank you.
Let's have a purpose for everything that's happening, and I want to touch on, of course, some real life issues, of course, despite it being fantasy too. So, and it's just hitting those mark and getting that emotional impact with a character, and I think I can do that with the characters I've created.
It's kind of oddly satisfying though, right? When you do get to that point, excuse me, where you're looking down at the page, I've messed this up. This really belongs better here. And it's a pain, right? That you have to go through and change it all, but you also know it's better for it, right? And
right.
So and maybe that's good doing this channel and having being able to talk to all these people and seeing all this different work. You're kind of skipping some of the growing pains of writing by actually doing what people are supposed to do and learning from the mistakes of everybody else and incorporating that right away. So
yeah, I think the other thing I want to really focus on too is the trust of the reader. I think that's another main thing that I think, especially in the early part of the reading. I was looking over my prologue a couple days ago. Like I said, I'm going back to page 1 again, and I'm like eliminating like entire pages. So, I think it's good that I wrote so much, because I think it will make it easier to cut as compared to having to, cut a bunch and then maybe rewrite. I think my rewrites aren't going to be like adding more words. In that sense, is going to be as bad as because I've already written so much. But going back to those earlier chapters that were written like almost like a decade ago, I think it's going to be an eye opener, and knowing like, oof, some cringe moments in my writing and all that, and how much we were talking about, him, the author of One Piece, how he started, and 20, 30 years of writing later, of course, that grows. And then even in the short time span of one volume, there's a couple of times I've seen in authors, especially debut authors, where their writing style has changed for the better, from like, say, chapter 1 to their, final chapter. And you can actually visually see the growth of the writer in one book sometimes, especially in a debut author. And I hope to, if that is going to be the case for me, I hope at least it does improve for the better.
Well, when you look at it like that, when you look at it from a craft point of view, the fact that you've written 300-something thousand words, despite the fact that you haven't published them yet, the words are like putting in miles running, right? It's still training. You're still getting better as you're doing it. The words are the words. The fact that you've done them at all is going to make you a better writer for it. So John just wrote, I don't see this author on Amazon. John, that's because Christopher hasn't published a book yet. He's still writing it.
First book. Yep.
Hey, Chris, I do want to just point out, I did some quick math. You've actually written more words than me.
Oh, from what, your four books?
My 4 books is about 360,000 words.
Jeez.
Slacker.
Well, I do feel better. Because yours aren't thick chunkers though. Yours are, easy reads, like easy, like maybe at the most like a week's read, which is a good length. I just wish I could get it to that length, but I think because I'm juggling so many POVs, I think it's just going to go longer.
Yeah, I keep it simple. I just do one POV.
You were smart.
Well, yeah,
I'm not very bright.
try to write epic fantasy from one POV in present tense. They have to be everywhere all the time. This is why I have novella collections now, because
I should have started with the novella, but I'm already in it, so we'll just go with it.
So are you hoping to publish it this year?
I would like to at least have a date by the end of the year. It might go into 2025, early 2025, for a release date. It depends on how these next few edits go, and then of course working with in a cover artist, or all the other things that go with publishing too. And yeah, I definitely have no interest in going trad pub. I'm gonna strictly go indie. Who knows? But I'm pushing for indie. That way I can just do it on my own, sort of thing. Well, I mean, with, of course, people you meet and all that, but without any kind of publishing influence on it.
Have you considered getting the first one done and just kind of putting it in the corner and getting number 2 going, and just not publishing it until you have 2 or 3 done?
That I've also been kind of toying with. I have been writing prior to when I finished the first draft, which I think was back in October. I did put it to the side, and I started writing a couple of the opening chapters to book 2, because, like you said, I do want to get. I don't want it to be another 10 years before the book. I don't want it to be. I don't want to be George R. R. Martin and or Rothfuss or anybody like that. I do want to have like a consistent schedule of when these books come out, and of course I am pushing for like maybe one a year, but we'll see how it goes. But I do want to have a good portion of that done, and I think I can like juggle a little bit of that intermingled when I need a break from doing rewrites of book 1 and write more of book 2 and have a good jumping point from that. I mean, book 2 is so rich in my head right now. It's not going to be something that I'm going to have be as a roadblock for me. In fact, I had probably book 2 planned before book 1, honestly, but there was a lot of like people and things that I felt like, all right, how did they get here? And that's where book 1 came in. So
I have a question for you. I call it my Bible, where I have a spread. I have a Word document with all my characters and like a 1-sentence description of them. Do you have something like this?
Yes.
Oh, good. I was going to say, please tell me you have this.
In fact, I went a little fancy on that. I have Campfire, which is a software that it's relatively easy to use, but it's Campfire.
Okay.
And you can essentially, and it's strictly my reference Bible. It's everything. It's when I need to take a break from the actual writing of the book, I'll go in there. I'll write some history. I'll write some character blurbs for those characters. I have like little boxes. You can make these like little visual boxes, and I have the chapters. And then,
oh man,
and my chapters are kind of just named by the character that you're the POV from, kind of like George R. R. Martin's books, where he'll say like Sansa, and then it's the chapters about Sansa, and it's kind of how I do my chapters. So and so I have those down, and then I have like the big moment like that is supposed to happen in that chapter. And that's how I keep track. And then that's also an easy way to see, okay, I've done like 3 chapters of this character. Let me jump into this character we haven't seen since maybe chapter 2 or something like that. So it's also keeping me like focused on plot lines. And I'm trying to do the plot. I'm trying to do character focus based on where they are in the time, like in the timeline kind of thing. And so it's that way everybody is kind of where they are all present in the certain moment. So there could be a time where I have one character that will have like 3 consecutive chapters, and then the next character will only have one because at that moment their portion is the smaller portion kind of thing, if that makes sense. But Campfire's been really helpful for that because I need visual a little more, and I have Excel spreadsheets and all that other stuff too. So there's a couple things I use for sure.
I just while you were talking, I was looking at that online. It looks like there's a free, pretty limited free version, and then a monthly kind of thing, and then a pay it once and be done with it.
I use the free one. I think the pay one gives you access to like maps and all that, and
I just couldn't find a price in here for like the pay once.
I don't know what it is.
I don't either.
Like I said, I just use the free one. I just make my little like Bible and my little history timeline, and that's.
Oh, here it is. I see it. So lifetime access for the manuscript is $45. For
Actually,
a character thing, it's $30. For a timeline thing, it's $30. It's just got a whole big list. If you wanted to get everything, it'd probably cost you a few $100.
Yeah,
but
I know it like has like options for like maps and all that too. So
yeah. Good stuff. Check that out.
Yeah.
So what's next on your channel? And thank you, by the way. I meant to say this earlier. Thank you for getting our obligatory dig at George R.R. Martin in. I think we do that about once an episode somewhere. I appreciate it.
Does it happen every episode? I joked about my initial goal was to get my first book out before Winds of Winter comes out.
That should be easy enough.
But I am getting nervous because I don't know if is sparking the Winds of Winter conversation. But no, for the channel, I have a couple of videos lined up. Like I said, there's a couple personal things going on in my life right now, so it's kind of unfortunately put a kind of a bad damper on my beginning of 2024. I'm still reading though actively, which is great, but the content got just postponed a few weeks. So I have some 2024 updates. Probably the biggest one, and have already chatted with Mike about it, is I am going to start author discussions and do some more live streams. And I thought, I focus a lot of my channel on indie authors and publishing. So I want to start scheduling like discussions with authors on the channel and have those going on. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I want to make them a little different than typical one-on-ones. I want to make them a little more group oriented, I was thinking, and like really focus on like making sure that the group dynamic makes sense. Like I'll probably put like a couple of sci-fi authors on together, or or what, grimdark fantasy together or something like that along those lines. Then we can discuss themes and all that and their approaches too. But I want to make it very like group oriented, like feeding off each other as an author kind of thing, rather than the typical one-on-one discussions.
So I think you should put like a Hallmark Channel cozy person with a grimdark murderer kind of person on there, and just
small town
diametrically opposed as you can, just to see what happens and where they agree, because there's probably areas that they agree on, right?
Right, absolutely.
Or a real kind of elitist snobbery kind of.
Well, I was going to say like Hallmark. What's their storylines? Large urban, large city folk move to the small country and fall in love with the local.
Well, so my brother and I watch bad Christmas movies every year from about Halloween on, and it's just fucking painful. but it's kind of fun. And just about every one involves a woman in a big city who has a job that she's usually just lost for some reason and has to, or she gets assigned because she's some type of journalist. She gets assigned to go out to a country to talk to the small tree farmer or, some other little mom and pop shop that's falling on hard times, where she meets either an old boyfriend or the young man who doesn't want to be there, and they discover the meaning of Christmas together and live happily ever after. And usually there's a British person involved. I don't know.
It's funny you say that because I visited during the holidays, during Christmas season, I visited my mom for a week. She's in a nursing home. She needs 100% full-time service and nursing service and all that. And they always have that Hallmark channel, and I'm like, man, this is the brutal. And I told my older sister, I go, we got to find her a better nursing home where they at least play some variety of shows or something. But yeah, she was sitting there. Sometimes I have to just, I just sit with my mom because, she just doesn't want to talk, but she just wants to, she just likes, of course, the company. And I go, so are you following the show, Mom? And she's like, I don't even know how. I think she goes, I think I've seen this like 6 times now. And I go, no, they just changed the actors.
Yeah, it's different movie. I actually got my mother a year subscription to the Hallmark Channel for Christmas, and I got my dad a I'm sorry card. So, I'm very, very sorry, Dad, but this is what you want. So yeah.
I said to my spouse, I said, if I end up in a nursing home, make sure there's like a video game console or something.
Sharp instrument, something nearby.
Or at least puzzles or something.
So, Chris, I have a question, a serious question.
It's about freaking time. Do your job.
So, which do you prefer? Do you prefer when you write out your first draft, or do you prefer editing, or do you know yet?
Oh man, I think I'm going to like my first draft because I'm exploring it, kind of like a first time reader would be, saying, I'm discovering a lot about not just my writing, but I'm discovering what I like about character and what I like about themes and impacts of ramifications of things that don't go, like karma-based things. And it's seeing those play out like almost accidentally. Like half the time I don't even need to like put a lot of like work in the writing. I mean, obviously when I go back, I'm going to be like, oh man, this is atrocious. But I think it's just that initial discovery that I like so much. And I think writing first drafts, I always said like, I said, maybe I'll just write a bunch of all the first drafts. And then when I'm like 70, then I'll publish them. But but yeah, I think it's just a lot of fun discovering things and things you didn't expect that were going to happen that I think would work really well for the book. Of course, there's a lot that's not going to work that I know I have to cut. And I think I'm going to be good. I think like I mentioned, I wrote 360,000 words. I think it's going to be very easy for me to let go of something. Or like Rose said, maybe I could split in a second book if I can find a good way to end book 1 or something like that. Yeah, I think just finding those initials. I got to ask Mike, what about you? Do you think?
There's nothing worse than the first draft. When you sit there staring at a blank page and going, I have to fill this with something. Oh my God, I hate it. But I'm also, when I write, my first draft is like 70,000 words. And then every time when I go back, I add to it. And I'll do things like I'll be in chapter 17. I'll go, no, if I give him a peg leg, this would be much better. So I have to remember to go back to chapter 3 and now give him a peg leg and just try and ironing all that out takes several times through. And I try to do that before Rose sees it because he's my editor and he'll really let me have it if I let that happen.
And I think, Chris, what you said about enjoying the writing process more is exactly the reason they suggest, they being, whoever they are, not editing your own stuff, because in your head, much more about this character and what's going to happen, or maybe much more about what has happened, that the reader doesn't know. So if you're doing the editing, you're kind of doing it with all of that in the back of your head.
Yeah. I think when it comes to editing, it's really, that's going to be the point for me where I'm going to okay, I got to make sure one, all right, I said in chapter 2, and here I am on chapter 40 that he had a cut on his arm or something like that. I got to make sure that's something, the when you hit those little details, and I worry about the work that I'm going to put into that. And I guess I'm a little nervous of the editing, honestly. But I think I can, we'll see. Maybe my answer will change next year when if I talk with you again on this, because I am eager to start a revision, because I think my relief was the biggest word for me when I got to the end of the first draft, because it did take me nearly a decade, because like Mike said, there are days where I'm just staring at a page and I have no idea what I'm writing that day. And I try to refocus. I'll go to maybe my reference notes, maybe write some, history, write some character descriptions, just to maybe get going a little bit. And sometimes that helps. Or even lately, like I said, going into book 2, which I can see more visually, because it's something that I've was initially going to start with.
And I have one more question for you. I'm really taking over Rose's job here.
Dude, have at it, man.
Andrew Meredith, who is a very, very wise man, as you well know. I saw where he's talking about, he loves Terry Pratchett, but the last thing he can do when he's writing is read or listen to Terry Pratchett, because then that tries to bleed into his book, and he's all of a sudden writing comedy when he's, doing a death scene. So, and it's not Glockta, so, it's hard. So are there things that you have to I cannot, indulge in this because I'm writing, or are you more I couldn't write with music on or any other words coming anywhere, because I just, what's that?
Right. Yeah. I can listen to music. I can do, I certainly can't do a book, audio. I know there are a couple authors who do that. I'm how do you possibly do that? But I can do music. It does tend to have to be more instrumental music. Yep. And of course, I'll do a lot of world music, something that, if there is lyrics, I probably can't understand them, because it might be because they're Englishistic, or it's ethereal sounding. So it might be kind of new agey or something like that. Something to get me, transported, off world. I can't listen to any kind of rock or anything that, very realistic music. I can do some, I do a little bit of maybe if you call it I call it Viking music, Viking very hardcore music, if I'm writing a battle scene or something like that. So it's also what scene am I writing, and then have a playlist for that. But for the most part, it's very instrumental music.
So if we see a pickup truck in your story, we know you're listening to country.
Yeah, exactly. No pickup trucks in this book anyway.
Day job. Sorry, EL just came on. EL's one of the folks that comes on quite a bit. Day job intruded. How you can't let your day job take over. You tell your boss what's going on. Sure, he's got some time. Oh, okay. In the background, that's fine. I'll let you go. Well, you just about come for the wrap up there, Mr. Montague. So when you say instrumental, is all old instrumental, or what's your top 3 instrumentals? What's your go-to?
There is a group called oh man, putting me here. I got to bring up Spotify. Sorry, you got me. I mean, I do a lot of soundtracks, so I'll do like Lord of the Rings soundtrack is on there. Lately, I've been listening to the Baldur's Gate soundtrack.
Yes.
Let's see here. I got a lot of, despite not really writing sci-fi, which I think this music seems a little more to, is Carbon-Based Life Forms is the group. Also, a little bit of Animethiasm, I believe it's called. They're actually a very, very new agey. They're a little more light, so if I'm writing a lighter scene, I'll do that. Yeah, that's probably some of my bigger ones. Rufus de Sol, although he is very vocal, lyrical wise, so sometimes his music can distract me a little bit, but I still like it enough to add it on there. And sometimes when I'm so deep in it, I don't even know he's playing. Oh, cat.
Yep, got my cat.
So Chris, I will tell you put in one of the Discords about the Baldur's Gate music, and I was like, I need something new to listen to, so I got it. I was so excited, and now I'm writing my sci-fi book, so I can't even listen to it. So, but I listen to Holst, the Planets, classical music.
Okay.
And that gets me going for sci-fi, but it'd be nice if I had more than one option, for each genre. But
I'll run some more by you. Though I was just kind of had to go through kind of like on the fly here of what I remember, but I'll send some more your way. I think that might work, especially if you're going sci-fi right now. Are you taking a break from your current series?
So when I started writing eons ago, I wrote a sci-fi, and it was abysmal. It was also 34,000 words, and I'm like, I've written a novel. I should publish. And I gave it to some friends at work to read, and they all told me it was great because they lied to my face on it. And then I was like, well, I want to make it more, because I looked up, how long is a novel? And I was like, I don't have a novel. I have to have 20,000 more filler words, because this is how bad I was when I started. So I wrote it 7-8 times, something like that. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to set it down, take a break, just write some fantasy to, get my head clear. And then I'll come back and I'll publish this book in no time. And it's set for 4 years. And I've published 4 fantasy books now. And so I finally went back and I said, no, let's look at this. And my alpha reader, he absolutely hates fantasy. I don't know why I'm still friends with him, but he does alpha read all my books. And I always tell people, I can always tell when he's done, because he comes looking at me and he is smiling. He is so gleeful. He's like, let me tell you the plot holes that I found. And he is so happy. But I buy him lunch at Wendy's and we go through it all. So, I'll take that trade.
There you go.
And every time he's like, when are you going to write the sci-fi? That's the book I like. So I told him, okay, after I finish my 2nd book, I'll do it. After I finish my 3rd book, I'll do it. Now I put my 4th book out. I'm like, okay, I'm going to lose you as an alpha reader. So now I'm actually doing it.
Speaking of which, I think we should take a minute for you to be a little self-serving. You have a giant stack of something new behind you, Mike. Why don't you show us what it is?
I do. They came in like 2 hours ago.
Wow.
Finally.
I love the naked hardcovers. I love that idea so much.
I have always hated book jackets, and whenever I get them,
I take them off. Yeah, like when I read them, I'll take them off.
Well, I'm a monster. I take them off and throw them away.
Oh wow. Okay, I don't go that far because they do look good on the shelves.
So, but yes, I did the Kickstarter.
That was amazing.
I promised these books to everybody in November, and I just got them today. So, just before
this, sign in hand already.
So I was emailing the Kickstarter people. I was like, I need your address. And they're like, oh, I thought I put it in Kickstarter. You can get it there. I'm like, no, I'm old. I cannot. Give it to me again.
Yeah, I was going to say I wish my cat would just sit up there like that. Mine.
Oh, he does this. He does this every morning. He'll just jump up on my shoulders for a while. And
Sometimes I'll get mine on my lap and he'll stay, but usually he's a little younger too, so he's usually all over the place. But it's always when I'm filming or on camera or something.
This guy's about 5. So, and he's one of 5 that we have, but he's the only one that does this. So.
So Daniel, I'll tell you, I closed my door because my dog was coming in and barking like crazy before we came on. So you will not be seeing Shadow tonight. I did tell him to go play in traffic, though.
You guys hear my dog? He's barking at something downstairs right now.
All right. Well, Christopher, thank you very much for coming on.
Absolutely.
And on behalf of Mike and myself, if ever you need someone to talk to on your show, give us a ring.
Absolutely. I have already talked with Mike about it. I definitely want to have Mike on there. And yeah, you're welcome to join for sure. Just a matter of working on scheduling, and that's about it.
Always like talking about stuff that, it's pretty easy to talk about your own stuff, I think, sometimes. So.
Absolutely. Cool.
Yep.
Any other questions from the peanut gallery here? Quiet night.
Yeah, peanut gallery subdued.
Question-wise.
Yeah. So our next show, then, I'll tell you, is going to be Ryan Kirk. Is that it? Yes.
Oh,
Ryan Kirk, our next SPIFFO
finalist. Yeah.
So I told Ro that I've reached out to the final 4 people I hadn't talked to, and we were going to interview 9 of the 10 on the show, and the 10th person said he does not do live interviews. So we'll get 9 out of 10. But
well, 90%. That's better than anything I ever did in school, so it's all good.
You're going to be hitting those like up until the winter announces then, huh?
Through March. I wanted to, I didn't want to be like late in April when it's like, well, you're a 6.2 and so-and-so is 8.7. So we know I want to do it early enough that, everyone's still, the winner is still not clear.
Do you know all the books I read for SPIFFO so far? None of them made it to the finals. And I thought they were really all good.
So I've told Ro I've read a couple of the finalist books, and I'm not that they're not for me. I mean, they're well written, but they're not for me. So
yeah, The Curse of Navo. Those right on there. But I got a couple definitely lined up to read. So I do want to read some myself before the winner is, but I'll probably still read them past. I just want to get as many as I can before SPIFFO 10 starts. So,
and then we're hoping after we get the SPIFFO authors, we want to try to get what's his name? I forgot his name now. The guy who puts it on.
Mark Lawrence.
Yes, Mark. That is my goal, is to say, Mark, we interviewed your 10 finalists. You need to come on the show now. So that is the goal.
Yeah, I'd be curious what his personal choice was, in that contest. He probably won't say.
Chris, do you have a mailing list or anything?
I have like a regular email.
Like a mailing list for readers.
Yeah, I have it on my channel. It's ChristopherNavoBooks@gmail.com.
Hold on. Christopher Navo, one word?
Yeah, Christopher Navo Books. Books.
At gmail.com?
At gmail.com. Yeah, it's pretty long.
All right, cool. Christopher Navo book.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. I wanted to make sure I gave you the right information.
And what's the logo on your hat? So we get the real in-depth questions
it's
here.
I
Thundercats.
thought that's what it was.
Yeah. I'm an 80s kid, so.
Just out of curiosity, how old are you, Chris?
What's that?
How old are you?
48.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
You got a lot more hair than Mike for roughly the same age.
Too much.
Yeah, damn, still curly and dark. The hell?
Yeah, I got my mom's genes. My dad bald and grayed, like, I think by 34, And then my mom,
Well, he had you.
what?
Had you, right?
Yeah. And then my mom lucked out. She didn't like gray until like she was like in her mid 60s or something like that. And it was only when you lifted up her hair that you saw the gray. But it was dark. I always thought she colored it, but she never did. So I was like, okay, I want to take after mom.
All right, give me those genes. Thank you very much. Hair passes from the mother side. What was your mother like, Mike?
All of my uncles were bald by the time they were 40. So, yeah, there was no hope for me. And my dad had the 8-inch comb over.
Oh,
Yeah, my dad had that too. Yeah,
bald is a better look.
He was holding on. He was holding on to those hairs, and I think even back then I was like, "Dad, just shave it. It'll look better. It'll look better if it's all bald rather than the hanging on to the 7 hairs."
See, now if we can do this show for a couple more years, right? So I've got this right there, right?
Yeah.
But from the front, I can't see it yet. So as it starts creeping forward, and once I can start seeing the baldness from the front, I'll be Mike. Just off
And
it
you can always let your hair grow a little longer and cover
There
it.
will be no comb overs.
No.
My dad, he used to at night, he'd watch TV and he'd start playing with his hair and he'd do it out. And I swear half of him looked like Bozo the Clown because his hair was like literally 8 inches out from his head.
Oh, geez.
And then, there's nothing on. Yeah. That's when I was like, I will never, ever do that. Like, I don't know what I'll do. I'll shave myself bald because that was like the most ridiculous thing to even contemplate at the time.
It reminds me of like all the colonial people, like back in the Revolution days, where they had like thick sides, and then all the hair like was on the sides, but they were bald on top.
All right, Chris, thank you very much. Appreciate you hanging out with us.
Yes,
Mike, get those books mailed out. I'd like to read it.
Okay.
It's a beautiful book. I got to catch up, Mike. I only finished 2 books, so I got to finish up.
So did you do Sins and Sorrows or To Speak with Elders?
Sins and Sorrows.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Sins and Sorrows. Yeah.
Okay. I will tell you, To Speak with Elders, I had one person tell me they thought becoming a druid was slow. So I was like, okay, we're not making that mistake. So To Speak with Elders screams. I went way too far into it's like, no, there will be no pause. So just strap in.
Will do. I didn't think becoming a druid was slow.
I most people tell me that it's too fast and I need to take more pauses, but the first
if I had a critique, it would. I thought it went fast. But
I think that's the problem.
I'm writing a 360,000 page book, so I can't really say anything.
Part of the problem with Mike doing it in first person is it's really difficult to do a lot of kind of surroundings and all that kind of stuff with a first person, because first
you're only
what this person's thinking, they're not really paying attention to all that, or
you're only guided by what you see. Yeah, exactly.
Right. They're not verbalizing, oh, she's wearing a red leather dress with blah, blah, blah.
Or what's going on behind them or anything like that. Absolutely. Yeah. So,
oh, well. So enjoy To Speak with Elders. It screams. Even Andrew told me that was his critique, was that I needed to slow down on To Speak with Elders. So, yeah, it screams. I think I slowed it down a little for Sins and Sorrows. So, yeah, but no, To Speak with Elders, it's a track meet. So be warned.
Sweet.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And to all you folks still around, thank you very much. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah. And now we will end it and wave awkwardly.